Have you ever heard of a heavenly conflict between the mighty archangel Michael and Satan himself? And here's the twist. It wasn't a battle over a living soul, but over a body. The body of Moses. Yes, you heard that right. This isn't a myth, a legend, or a rumor. It's written down, right in the Bible. In one short but powerful verse, tucked away in the book of Jude, chapter 1, verse 9, Scripture reveals a stunning mystery. Satan disputes with Michael the archangel over the body of Moses. But why? Of all the things Satan could be after, why would he care about a man's remains? What made the body of Moses so important that it triggered a clash between heaven and hell? Behind this strange confrontation lies more than just curiosity. This story uncovers spiritual truths, the hidden tactics of the enemy, and God's overwhelming protection of his faithful ones, even after they leave this earth. In this video, we're going to explore the mystery surrounding Moses' body. We'll uncover why Satan fought so fiercely for it, what this reveals about spiritual warfare, and what it means for us today. Stick around because the real reason behind this struggle is more profound than most people realize: the life and legacy of Moses. To understand the mystery of Moses' body, we first need to remember who Moses was. He wasn't just a historical figure. He was one of the greatest leaders the world has ever seen. Moses is remembered as the man who stood before Pharaoh and demanded freedom for Israel. He was the one used by God to bring plagues upon Egypt, to part the Red Sea, and to lead the people of Israel through the wilderness toward the Promised Land. Moses spoke to God directly, almost like a friend speaks to a friend. He climbed Mount Sinai and came back down with the 10 Commandments carved in stone, laws that shaped the foundation of Israel's faith and even influenced societies around the world to this day. His leadership carried Israel for 40 years in a desert filled with challenges, complaints, miracles, and lessons. But here's the surprising part. As close as Moses was to God, he never entered the Promised Land himself. His long journey ended with disappointment. At a critical moment, God asked him to simply speak to a rock, and water would flow out to satisfy the thirsty Israelites. But instead, out of frustration and anger, Moses struck the rock twice with his staff, and in doing so, shifted the glory from God to himself. By saying in effect, "We will bring water out of this rock," Moses stepped into God's spotlight. For human eyes, this might seem like a small slip, but before God, it was a grave act of disobedience. The message was clear. Spiritual leaders are held to a higher standard. Because of this mistake, Moses was allowed only to look at the Promised Land from a distance, not to enter it. The mysterious burial of Moses. This brings us to one of the most fascinating passages in all of Scripture. Deuteronomy 34 tells us that Moses, the servant of the Lord, died in Moab. But here's the unique detail. God himself buried Moses, nobody else. No Israelite leaders, no priests, not even Joshua, the man who succeeded him. It was God alone. And to this day, no one knows the location of Moses' burial. Think about that. In the entire Bible, there is no other example where God performs a burial. Kings had tombs. Prophets were mourned and laid to rest. But Moses, his body was personally buried by the Creator of the universe in a secret place. That fact alone tells us there was something much deeper going on. Moses was a towering figure in Israel's history. If his burial site had been known, people might have turned it into a shrine. Generations could have venerated his body, created rituals around it, or even fallen into idolatry. God, in his wisdom, chose to prevent that. But it goes beyond human temptation, because the Bible indicates that Satan himself was after Moses' body. The heavenly dispute in Jude 1:9, and this is where Jude 1:9 pulls back the curtain on something astonishing. It says that Michael the archangel contended with Satan over the body of Moses. This wasn't just a polite debate. The language of Scripture implies a direct confrontation, a clash of great spiritual significance. Notice what happens. Michael does not rely on his own strength. He doesn't attempt to overpower Satan with personal force. Instead, his response is simple yet powerful. "The Lord rebuke you." That short phrase reveals something profound. Victory over evil doesn't come from human ability or even angelic might. It comes only by the authority of God himself. Michael, one of the most powerful heavenly beings, understood that even he could only stand against Satan through God's power. But the bigger question lingers. What did Satan want with Moses' body? Why would Satan want the body of Moses? At first glance, it may sound strange. What use could the devil possibly have for a dead body? But Scripture gives us clues about Satan's tactics. Remember, his mission is always to steal, kill, and destroy. And one of his favorite methods is deception, turning people's focus away from God. If the burial place of Moses had been revealed, Satan could have twisted it into a tool for corruption. Imagine the potential. People could have started worshiping Moses rather than worshiping God. Entire generations might have treated his tomb as a holy site, placing trust in relics rather than in the living God. Through Moses' body, Satan could have planted seeds of idolatry, confusion, and spiritual distraction. For Israel, a nation already prone to chasing after idols, this could have been devastating. By hiding Moses' body, God was protecting his people from being led astray and thwarting Satan's plan right from the start. But there may also be another layer. Moses wasn't just any leader. He represented the law itself. His body symbolized God's covenant through the law given at Sinai. For Satan, attacking that symbol could act as an attempt to undermine God's bigger plan of salvation. After all, the law would one day be fulfilled by Jesus Christ, and Moses' role in redemptive history was critical.